What up, guys? Joachim here. Joachim Justin Morgan. And I haven't made a video in quite a while now. I apologize for the delay in content. I have been very busy with some kind of exciting things that I will tell you guys about sometime in the not too distant future. But for now, I want to take a moment to discuss the events of the Paris Olympics. And a lot of people have had kind of takes on this and reported on it, and those are all very relevant. I even saw Father Josiah Trenum who had made a video about the blasphemy of this event. I have not watched the video yet, but I'm sure it's incredible as his videos usually are. But what I wanted to discuss in this was something a little bit adjacent to this topic, and maybe take a step back to something larger. I know, just quickly before I begin, I know some people had made this comment that this was not the Last Supper, that this was some kind of Dionysus, the Bacchus festival thing. And while that was a thing, like you saw here, and while that's disgusting and blasphemous as well, they also had the Last Supper portrayed there. So it was offensive. It was offensive to all Christians, and it should be. It was intended to be offensive. They meant for it to be offensive. Even in their apology for it, they responded and kind of, they apologized that you were offended for it. They weren't sorry that they mocked Christ, they mocked Christians, that they mocked the church. They were sorry that you were offended by what they said. But what I wanted to look at was something a little bit outside of the box as far as this goes, and I wanted to go back to the book of Genesis and just take a look at when God goes in and he surveys the land of Sodom and Gomorrah, and he approaches Abraham. I don't remember what chapter in Genesis this is, but he comes to Abraham and he says, if there are 100 righteous in the land, should I? He says he's going to destroy the land, but Abraham says, if there's 100 righteous, will you destroy it? And God says, well, no, I will not destroy it for 100 righteous. And it's almost like as if he's haggling with God, but he's really just asking. He asks God, if there's 10 righteous, he goes all the way down through, so many numbers. If there's 10 righteous people in the land of Sodom and Gomorrah, will you still destroy the land? And God says he will not, even if there are just 10 righteous left. And there are, in fact, not 10 righteous left. So the angels go on to Sodom and Gomorrah, and they find Abraham they find Lot and his wife and his daughters, and their I don't think they're married yet, but their daughters and the husbands that are supposed to be marrying them. And long story short, they get let out. Well, I tend to think of like the events of the end of times, the apocalypse, as being very similar to this, because I think there will come a time when God surveys the nations and he says, are there, so many number righteous left? Are there righteous nations left in the world? And eventually that answer will be, there's not enough. I think there are some righteous nations, like nations that still are very devout. Like maybe they have very, non-devout people that are part of their country. But, as a nation, they kind of hold to godly principles, and even like some very orthodox countries have in recent years abandoned this and gave way to the age of modernity and some of the same things that you see in this blasphemous display that I have on the screen here, where they've adopted very I don't know how to say it without being very explicit, but they've adopted very sexually immoral practices, which they have supported as countries. They've led the world in abortions per capita in their country, and this is very sad and unfortunate to see from an Orthodox country. While there are other countries that are in a state of war, and I mean the reasons that they give for the war go unreported, but maybe you would not support war, but when I hear some of the leaders of these countries saying that they don't want the spirit of blasphemy that you see on display here, they don't want this coming to their country, they don't want transvestites reading to children in libraries, they don't want open things that lead to pedophilia, which you can see. There was a child in the midst of all this with this man's testicles hanging out the bottom there. So you see the very nature of pedophilia on display here in this Olympic event. So when I hear the leaders of those countries saying we don't want this coming, we don't want these things that have spread across the West coming to our country, and we don't want there to continue to be westward expansion of NATO, and that's the reason that they're giving for why they're willing to go to war. Maybe you don't like the idea of going to war, but I as an American, I don't really care for wars and things where my country's funds and our troops are being sent to other countries either. But I don't disagree with the reasoning at all. I don't disagree with the logic. All of that aside, there will come a day when there are not enough righteous left. There will come a day when the nations of the world have turned toward the spirit of this age. They have turned towards the demonic, satanic things that you see on display right here on the screen that were present at the Olympics this year. And it will have been enough. That will be the end of days. There will be no more righteous left, and the world will be left in a state that God has no option left but to bring judgment for the sake of the people. And that will be both a great and a terrible day. So you guys take it easy. I don't really have anything more specific than that. Kind of maybe chew on some of those things and let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I appreciate you guys watching. Take it easy, and I will give you guys some updates on why I've been so sparse of videos here lately in the near future. Bye.